The sector is not truthful, and the earlier you be given this brutal reality, the sooner you can prevent being its victim. Proper now, even as you are looking this, a person less intelligent than you is commanding extra recognize. A person weaker than you is wielding more have an effect on. A person with fewer competencies than you is dwelling the lifestyles you need truly due to the fact they apprehend the dark psychology of human nature. You've been programmed to play via rules that others broke long in the past. You've been conditioned to be pleasant whilst others are being strategic. You've been taught to wait for recognize whilst others are taking it. The game is rigged, however now not inside the manner you suspect. It's rigged in opposition to individuals who refuse to learn its real policies. It is rigged towards folks who trust equity exists. It is rigged in opposition to people who assume excellent intentions count number greater than psychological dominance. 500 years in the past, Niccolò Machiavelli decoded the true mechanics of power and influence. He observed why precise men finish ultimate, and why ruthless strategists rule the sector. Today, I'm going to share 8 darkish psychological concepts to be able to remodel you from a person who receives ignored to a person who will become dangerously assured, untouchable, and not possible to disregard. However, I am caution you, after you see the matrix of human psychology, you may in no way unsee it. When you understand those principles, you may in no way be able to play the sufferer once more. Permit me let you know approximately the moment the whole lot changed for me. I used to be that man who had all the right solutions but no person listened. I used to be sensible, hardworking, authentic, and completely invisible. I watched as confident idiots were promoted over me. I noticed manipulative human beings build empires while honest people struggled. I witnessed charismatic sociopaths appeal to fans even as first-rate human beings ate on my own. After which, I realized the truth that no one wants to admit. The sector doesn't praise intelligence. It rewards impact. It does not admire suitable hearts. It respects robust presence. It does not care about your man or woman. It cares approximately your psychological dominance. This consciousness destroyed my naive international view. However, it additionally liberated me from a lifestyles of frustration and invisibility. Machiavelli lived in Renaissance Italy, surrounded by means of political intrigue, betrayal, and mental warfare. He watched kingdoms rise and fall based totally on one simple precept. Folks that understand human psychology rule folks who don't. His observations aren't just historic curiosities. They're operating manuals for every person who wants to prevent being manipulated and start turning into magnetic. Being ruthless doesn't suggest being cruel. It manner being psychologically sophisticated. It method expertise that while you're playing checkers with excellent intentions, others are playing chess with calculated moves. Here's what I need you to do before we dive deep. Write this statement inside the comments. I refuse to be psychologically dominated by using others. This isn't always just a remark. It's your first step in the direction of mental sovereignty due to the fact everything I am approximately to teach you requires one essential shift from sufferer mind, set to predator attitude. Are you ready to grow to be dangerously confident? Let's begin. Number 1. Equity is a psychological entice. Here's the first brutal fact. Equity is a lie bought to preserve you weak and compliant. Each time you look ahead to fair treatment, a person else is taking what you need. On every occasion you play by using imaginary guidelines, others are rewriting the game to their advantage. Whenever you anticipate reciprocity, manipulators are exploiting your predictable conduct. You've been conditioned to accept as true with that being fair makes you noble. In truth, it makes you prey. Consider your own lifestyles. How frequently have you given appreciate to someone who showed you none? How generally have you ever helped a person who in no way helped you return? How many times have you ever waited on your turn while others cut the road? This isn't always due to the fact you are unlucky. This is because you are psychologically programmed to lose. Machiavelli observed, men need to both be dealt with generously or destroyed because they take revenge for moderate accidents. For heavy ones, they cannot. This isn't always approximately bodily violence. It is about psychological struggle. When you wound a person's ego barely, they don't forget and plot revenge. While you psychologically dominate them completely, they be given their function and circulate on. The general public make the error of half of measures. They provide vulnerable pushback to robust personalities. They set tender barriers with aggressive human beings. They are trying to cause with people who operate on natural self-interest. This creates the worst feasible outcome. You appearance susceptible. However, you furthermore may create enemies who see you as a target they could subsequently defeat. Here's what psychological dominance actually looks like. When someone disrespects you, you don't argue or explain why they're wrong. You surely display via your actions that disrespecting you comes with instant and intense social consequences. You do not negotiate with those who do not admire your well-worth. You don't try to convince human beings to deal with you better. You create situations where entreating you properly is in their hobby, and treating you poorly expenses them something they price. Forestall being honest with folks that aren't fair to you. Begin being strategic with folks that simplest understand electricity dynamics. Variety, ruthlessness is emotional field. The majority suppose ruthless approach, losing manage and lashing out. They are completely wrong. Authentic ruthlessness is the alternative. It's ice bloodless emotional discipline. Ruthless people do not get angry, they get strategic. They don't react emotionally, they respond calculatedly. They don't make selections from harm emotions, they make decisions from logical assessment of what serves their hobbies. That is why emotionally reactive people in no way construct real effect. They are predictable. They may be manipulated by every person who knows which buttons to push. They deliver their power away every time someone makes them lose their composure. Psychologically dominant human beings remember the fact that emotions are statistics, no longer commands. They feel the anger, frustration, or unhappiness. However, they don't allow those feelings manage their movements. Let me come up with an instance. A person publicly embarrasses you or attempts to undermine your popularity. The emotionally reactive person gets protecting, argues, attempts to explain why they are right. This makes them appearance weak and validates the attacker's strength. The ruthlessly disciplined individual does something one of a kind. They observe the assault, experience the emotion, then ask, what reaction might be most unfavorable to this individual's social status whilst raising mine? Perhaps they forget about the assault completely, demonstrating that the attacker isn't worth their energy. Perhaps they reply with cold, actual correction that makes the attacker appearance foolish. Perhaps they use the assault as an opportunity to expose their superior composure. The secret's that their response is selected, not prompted. Machiavelli understood this. Accidents ought to be inflicted all of sudden, so that their ills, savor being less lasting, may additionally deliver less offense. While you must respond to mental assaults, make your response decisive and very last. Don't interact in ongoing drama. Do not get pulled into emotional to and fro. Make one calculated flow that ends the battle for your prefer. Reflect on consideration on the maximum psychologically powerful people you already know. Do they lose their mood frequently? Do they get into shouting suits? Do they permit others manage their emotional nation? Nah, they maintain emotional sovereignty. They select their battles. They respond from approach, not from feelings. This emotional field, turns into a source of first-rate psychological energy. While others understand they cannot control your emotions, they start treating you with caution and admire. Grasp your emotional responses. Permit others react at the same time as you strategically respond. Number 3. Mental dominance trumps likability. This fact will shatter your human being's appealing programming. Being reputable is infinitely extra treasured than being preferred. When people merely like you, they take risks with your emotions because they expect you'll forgive them. While human beings recognize your psychological strength, they suppose 2 times earlier than crossing you because they recognize there might be outcomes. Likeable human beings are safe. They are predictable. They're clean to take advantage of because everybody is aware of they may not retaliate meaningfully. Psychologically dominant human beings are dangerous. They may be unpredictable. They're handled with warning because everyone knows they are able to and could shield their pastimes. Think about your social circles. Who gets the most respect? The nicest individual or the character with the most powerful presence? Who do humans consult before making choices? The only who consents with anyone or the one whose approval honestly topics? Machiavelli become direct approximately this. It's miles a great deal safer to be feared than loved if one has to lack one of the. This does not imply being a tyrant. It approach being a person others understand they can't disrespect without dealing with real results. It manner having a recognition for being fair but formidable. Here's how this works in practice. Likeable humans say yes to requests they don't want to satisfy because they worry disappointing others. Dominant human beings say no without guilt because they prioritize their own pastimes. Likeable human beings take delivery of disrespect and desire it'll prevent. Dominant people deal with disrespect immediately and decisively. Likeable human beings try to be covered in the whole thing. Dominant people are selective approximately what merits their presence. Likeable human beings provide an explanation for and justify their choices. Dominant humans make decisions and count on others to conform. The psychological shift from likability to dominance is profound. Rather than asking, will they like me if I do this, you begin asking, will this action growth or lower my social strength? As opposed to looking to make everyone comfortable, you turn out to be at ease with others' soreness whilst it serves your hobbies. In place of looking for approval, you turn out to be someone whose approval others are seeking for. This is not approximately turning into, and it is about becoming someone whose respect need to be earned in place of someone who gives admire freely to folks that do not price it. Construct psychological dominance through consistent demonstration of your requirements and boundaries. Let others compete for your approval rather than competing for theirs. Wide variety for decisive motion creates mental superiority. Here's where most people wreck their have an effect on. They make weak movements again and again as opposed to robust movements rarely. Psychologically, susceptible human beings continuously threaten effects they by no means deliver. They supply multiple warnings that train others to ignore them. They are trying to control via nagging, pleading, and emotional manipulation. This creates a horrible popularity. Every person knows you are all bark and no chunk. Humans learn how to song out your court cases due to the fact your warnings have no real energy behind them. Psychologically dominant human beings perform in another way. They provide fewer warnings, however, once they act, their moves are decisive and noteworthy. Machiavelli discovered, if and damage must be performed to a man, it should be so intense that his vengeance want not be feared. In psychological phrases, this indicates whilst you should reveal your energy, make it so clean and final that people understand now not to check you once more. Allow me provide you with a concrete example. A person on your social circle constantly disrespects you, interrupting you, dismissing your critiques, making jokes at your price. The psychologically susceptible response is to hold asking them to forestall, getting frustrated, complaining to others about their behavior. This simply reinforces their dominance due to the fact they see they can affect your emotional country without facing actual outcomes. The psychologically dominant response is distinctive. You document the sample, then you definitely act once and decisively. Maybe you publicly call out their conduct in a way that embarrasses them. Perhaps you exclude them from something they fee. Maybe you display your social electricity via turning others against their conduct. The key is that your response is disproportionately sturdy in comparison to any unmarried incident, however proportionate to the overall sample of disrespect. This creates psychological effect. Others see that disrespecting you has actual costs. They also see that you're no longer someone who makes empty threats. When you act with pressure. This precept works in all regions of influence. Rather than constantly trying to persuade people of your cost, you now and again exhibit it so powerfully that the lesson sticks completely. As opposed to continually being to be had and beneficial, you are sometimes unavailable in a manner that makes people comprehend they want you more than you want them. In place of arguing your position time and again, you are taking actions that make your position undeniable. Make fewer threats, however, follow through completely when you act. Build a recognition for decisive motion rather than empty warnings. Quantity 5, belief control is reality manipulate. That is the maximum state of the art shape of mental impact. Knowledge that people's belief of you subjects greater than the goal truth of who you're. Most of the people awareness entirely on being proper and anticipate others will evidently recognize their price. This is naive. Human psychology would not work that manner. People do not have time to investigate your person deeply. They make snap judgments primarily based on floor alerts and social evidence. If you don't actively manipulate how others perceive you, a person else will manipulate it for you and no longer on your choose. Machiavelli understood this absolutely. Everybody sees what you seem like. You revel in what you really are, which means that for the massive majority of human beings you come upon, your photo is your truth. Your reputation is your electricity. Your perceived price is your actual fee in their minds. Psychologically state of the art humans apprehend this and actively craft their image. They manage the narrative about who they're before others create that narrative for them. This isn't approximately being fake. It's about being strategic in the way you gift your proper traits. Think about social media. Two humans accomplish the equal component. One individual files it strategically, displaying their competence and achievement. The other man or woman says not anything, assuming their work speaks for itself. Which person receives extra popularity, opportunities, and recognize? The one who managed their belief in face-to-face interactions. This indicates understanding that your body language, voice tone, apparel, and social self-belief communicate your fee earlier than you are saying a single word. If you stroll into a room with confident posture, make eye touch, and talk with authority, humans unconsciously categorize you as a person vital. In case you slouch, keep away from eye touch, and talk tentatively, humans unconsciously disregard you as unimportant. The mental precept is simple. Humans deal with you consistent with the way you teach them to look you. Right here's how notion management works in exercise. You manipulate what memories human beings pay attention about you by way of strategically sharing your successes and downplaying your failures. You accomplish yourself with excessive fee human beings and sports to raise your social reputation. with the aid of proximity. You keep some mystery about yourself so humans fill inside the blanks with effective assumptions as opposed to knowing all of your weaknesses. You venture confidence even while you sense uncertain because self-belief is contagious and uncertainty is repulsive. Your reputation is your maximum precious asset. Protect it, domesticate it, and leverage it strategically. Variety 6. Narrative control is mental battle. This is the final strength pass. Controlling now not simply what takes place, but how what takes place receives, interpreted, and remembered. Every state of affairs may be framed multiple approaches. The equal motion can be visible as leadership or vanity, self-belief or selfishness, energy or aggression. The individual that controls the narrative controls the meaning. The majority focus totally on their moves and ignore the story being advised approximately the one's moves. That is a big mistake. In human psychology, the story regularly subjects extra than the information. Consider any battle you've got witnessed. The individual that receives to inform their model first and maximum persuasively commonly wins inside the court docket of public opinion, irrespective of who turned into sincerely proper. Machiavelli found, men in preferred choose more from appearances than from fact. Human beings don't have time to investigate every scenario thoroughly. They rely on the simplified story they pay attention from trusted sources. Whoever controls that tale controls what people consider. This means you need to become skilled at framing your actions in approaches that serve your interests. While you be successful, you control the tale of how you succeeded. Whilst you fail, you control the story of what you discovered. While others attack you, you manage the counter-narrative. Here's how narratives warfare works in practice. When you make a hard selection that might be unpopular, you body it in phrases of concepts and lengthy, term wondering instead of immediately self, hobby. While someone tries to make you look terrible, you don't just guard yourself. You reframe their attack as evidence of their weak spot or jealousy. Whilst you reap something massive, you inform the story in a manner that highlights your strategic wondering and man or woman, not just your good fortune or natural talent. Let me come up with a concrete instance. You decide to reduce off a toxic friend who has been draining your power. They may tell people you are egocentric and abandon them once they wanted you most. In case you don't manipulate this narrative, human beings would possibly see you as heartless. But in case you proactively body the story, I needed to set obstacles with a person who becomes affecting my intellectual health and refused to respect fundamental friendship reciprocity. Humans see you as a person who values themselves appropriately. The same motion, completely different notion. Superior narrative control, way anticipating how your moves might be interpreted and getting in advance of negative interpretations earlier than they take maintain. Constantly recall now not simply what you're doing, but how what you are doing could be perceived and discussed. Shape the tale before others shape it for you. Number 7. Systematic effects. Create psychological authority. Maximum sophisticated form of influence does not rely on emotion, threats, or manipulation. It is based on developing predictable systems in which sure behaviors automatically result in positive results. This is psychological mastery because it gets rid of your character from the equation. Human beings cannot argue with systems the manner they argue with private selections. They can't manipulate computerized outcomes the way they control emotional responses. While you base your authority on getting angry or making threats, you're giving others manage over your electricity. They are able to push your buttons, control your emotions, and negotiate with your reactions. However, while you create structures where appreciate ends in get entry to and disregard leads to exclusion, you preserve entire mental manipulate. Machiavelli understood this. A wise ruler must depend on what is in his personal manipulate, not on what is in the control of others. Here's how systematic authority works in practice. In place of arguing with folks that don't admire a while, you simply turn out to be unavailable after they need you. Instead of getting irritated at folks that take advantage of your generosity, You quietly redirect your help to folks that display appreciation. As opposed to trying to convince humans to treat you higher, you create conditions in which treating you nicely blessings them and treating you poorly costs them. Permit me provide you with a particular instance. You have got pals who continually count on you to be the only who plans social activities, but they often cancel final minute or display up overdue. The emotionally reactive technique is to get annoyed, whinge approximately their conduct, or supply them guilt journeys about being unreliable. The systematically authoritative method is different. I plan activities for individuals who affirm attendance and display up on time. If a person develops a sample of canceling or tardiness, I forestall, consisting of them in planning.